This animatronic is powered by AI.
Hello!
It taught itself to walk, it taught itself to fall, it taught itself how to not overheat, which is useful for snowman. And it might be the beginning of a new golden age for Disney. But here's the surprising thing. Disney is using artificial intelligence to make their robots more human. And what's coming next is even wilder than what you've seen. What are Disney's robots of the future? To answer that, there are 4 things you need to understand. How Disney is using AI to train its animatronics, the tech secrets behind the free-roaming Olaf coming soon to the parks, a projection technology that looks straight out of science fiction, and why the skeptics who say that these will never show up in the parks are wrong. I have the receipts, including my patented prediction that's guaranteed to be true or your money back. So what will animatronics look like in the near and far future? Let's find out. Welcome back to Future World, the series where I read into every little detail Disney announces to give you a glimpse into the tomorrow of Tomorrowland. I'm James Grosh, your host who has not been replaced by AI, at least I think. And this episode is all about my favorite non-churro part of theme parks, animatronics. Specifically, what they will be like in the future, because I've been digging into Disney's research and patents, and there are a lot of exciting details that most people are missing. And even though AI plays a huge part here, the future of Disney's robots is much more human than you realize. And it all starts with teaching a robot how to walk and how to fall. Getting a bipedal robot to walk is one of those impossible sci-fi challenges like self-driving cars, lunar colonies, and keeping up with the laundry when you have small kids. For decades, it stumped the world's best scientists. It's why Ben Franklin climbing the stairs like this blew everyone's mind in 1982. Scientists at Honda worked on this problem throughout the 80s and 90s, and in 2000 they debuted Asimo, a bipedal robot that could walk, run, and even climb stairs. Take that, Franklin. You might have even seen him at Innoventions at Disneyland. But Asimo was basically performing a choreographed dance. He was pre-programmed to perform certain movements in a predictable, controlled environment. Which, as anyone who has been rammed in the back of their ankles by a stroller in Tomorrowland, you know that theme parks are not a predictable, controlled environment. So how do you teach robots to not only walk, but navigate a theme park? You teach them how to learn like a human. And that's where AI comes in. And AI is a broad term, almost as broad as computing itself. The AI that's applicable here is very different than generative AI like large language models in ChatGPT and Claude. There's a subset of AI called machine learning, and there's a subset within that called reinforcement learning. And this is where things get as wild as they are nerdy, because this is some of the most exciting technology out there, and no exaggeration, truly revolutionary for theme parks. RL enables computers to do things that we previously thought were impossible. And the best way to understand how this works is imagine the computer is playing a game. In a reinforcement learning system, the engineers can set up rewards for the program. If the program wins the game, it gets a reward. If it loses, no reward. Sounds simple, right? Well, programs really want this reward. And because they are machines, they can play thousands of games in a really short time using simulation. And through these thousands of games, they learn what works. They make mistakes and learn how to avoid them because they really want to get that reward. They develop new strategies, and most importantly, they get better on their own. So not only do they master how to play the game through experience, they actually improve over time, just like a human would. Now, how does this apply to animatronics? Well, you can replace any game with a task that has a success state and a failure state, like walking. If you take a few steps in a row, reward. If you can navigate unpredictable terrain, reward. If you get stuck or fall over, no reward. And the robots learn from every single simulated mistake. This is how Disney uses reinforcement learning to teach their robots how to walk. They run simulations that give these robots 10,000 hours of experience in just days. And that timeline compression is so important to understand because the results are shocking.
When we put it together, we tried it and the RL walking worked first time.
Yeah.
Never happens.
Never happens.
It's a solid foundation that we've then been able to really build on.
So Disney got robots walking, but things get even more interesting when the robots fall. Because falling is inevitable. Even a machine with thousands of years worth of RL training could still eat it on a curb on Main Street. And this is a problem because a bad fall could mean expensive repairs and extensive downtime, meaning less robots in the parks. So what do? Disney Research has a really clever solution to this. You teach the robots how to fall with style. Yes, the same reinforcement learning technique Disney used to teach the robots to walk can also teach them how to fall, both softly and in a stylized way.
This is falling with style.
Look at the difference between regular falling and stylized falling. It both prevents damage and adds personality. Imagineers can even create specific end poses that make the robot fall in honestly hilarious ways. Like it's saying, yeah, I meant to do that, totally. They can also train the robots to protect specific body parts, like its battery pack, so fragile and expensive equipment avoids getting damaged. Look at this. This robot has quick enough reactions that it even saves a backwards fall from damaging the battery on its back. Disney research says this stylized falling is really effective, and what this all shows is how powerful and flexible reinforcement learning is.
And then we got it to moonwalk.
We used human examples of a moonwalk and trained then a policy that can actually do the same on the robot.
But what does this mean for theme park fans? The ability for these robots to learn in a human-like way, while combined with the mechanical advantages of simulation, means that the dream of more free-roaming animatronics in the parks is one step closer. Or should I say one trip. So this tech is cool, but what it's already enabling is worth melting for. Disney has already started to roll this tech out in the parks, starting with the BDX droids. They had a limited time test in Disneyland a couple of years ago, but since then they've gone on a world tour. I got to see them at Disney World last year, and they are legitimately really fun to watch walk around, like cute robotic ducklings. But the best expression of this is easily the new next-gen Olaf animatronic, who can walk on his own, interact and talk with guests.
Hi everyone, I'm Olaf.
And even his carrot nose, arms, buttons, eyebrows, and hair are all magnetically attached, which apparently helps with repairability and enables gags. Plus, it just makes sense. He's a snowman, so those things are just stuck on there. But most remarkably, Olaf looks like he came straight out of the movie, which shows a huge advantage of this tech. The Olaf costume character does an admirable job, but there's only so much you can do when Olaf has to be a minimum of 5 feet tall. Let's be real, this Olaf looks like he's dropping triple doubles every night in the Arendelle Basketball League. By making Olaf an animatronic, Imagineers can build him to the proper scale. Imagineers even created a novel asymmetric leg design to fit his knees and hips in a confined space. And all that effort is worth it because it sells the magic that you're actually meeting a tiny little snowman. But also critically, Olaf doesn't just look like he does in the movies, he also moves like it. And once again, that's thanks to reinforcement learning. For example, take his cute little shuffling frozen feetsies. That's a technical term. A robot built for efficiency would not walk like that. Disney research revealed they trained the character to walk with a heel-toe gait, making the walking look less robotic and more in character. Imagineers can take reference animations and create reinforcement learning policies that gives the animatronic rewards for moving in true-to-character ways. And animators from Disney Animation Studio that worked on the Frozen films collaborated with Imagineering to work on the animations for this animatronic. And that gets to the human element of this. With animatronics like Lincoln, every single movement had to be pre-programmed by a human. Yes, there is human involvement, but it's labor-intensive and limited. There's only so much you can pre-program, and Lincoln frustrated those early Imagineers by regularly malfunctioning and smashing his chair, which is kind of a diva move. This reinforcement learning technique allows for the artistic intent to be preserved. The machine is trained on what the artist wants it to do, how to move and act in character. Animators have been evoking emotion through motion with drawings, CG, and now with physical figures. RL gives them a new tool to express their creativity. But the animatronic is also trained on what the engineer wants it to do, like don't fall on your battery pack as we saw before, or don't overheat. Olaf's big head puts a lot of strain on the small actuators in the neck, and there's a real risk of overheating. So they built a thermal model into the training so Olaf learns which poses generate more heat. Look at this comparison. Without this temperature reward, neck heat rises fast when Olaf looks up, and he just stays there. With the training, Olaf notices the temperature climbing and subtly self-corrects his posture automatically, keeping everything in the cool range, perfect for a snowman to avoid melting down. These robots are enabling a new level of human expression from the artistic side and the engineering side. And guests won't have to wait much longer to experience this. Olaf is coming within the next few weeks to the World of Frozen lands at Hong Kong Disneyland and Disney Adventure World in Paris. And Norway and Epcot, right? Right? No. Just Paris and Hong Kong, not Disney World, at least not yet. I guess we'll just have to settle for the fact that the animatronics on Epcot's Frozen Ever After were just upgraded from the rear projection screen faces to physically sculpted faces. Because screen faces are so a thing of the past, right? Actually, they might be the face of the future. And that gets us to the next future robot, because this is what Disney calls next generation audio animatronics, which uses projected media in a different way. With previous screen faces like Buzz Lightyear, the Seven Dwarfs, and the old Frozen figures, the image is projected from inside the head, like an old school TV. This had limitations, like obviously looking like a screen. Next generation audio animatronics aims to fix that issue by using a new real-time projection mapping technique. Instead of having an internally projected screen like the current Frozen animatronics, next-gen animatronics display the image using an external projector that stays perfectly tracked. And not only does Disney use this crazy-looking crown of QR codes to calibrate and lock in the tracking, the system also uses motor encoder data. So if there's a malfunction and the figure stops moving, the projector stays tracked to where the face is, not where it thinks it should be. So a motor malfunction doesn't ruin the entire show. The image also adjusts dynamically to ambient light. The idea is to create a more natural looking face that doesn't glow like the old figures and could theoretically work in unpredictable lighting conditions. And all of this projection is done on a static shell, leading to less wear and tear. But the most exciting thing about this tech is the storytelling capabilities. This lets Disney create expressive characters with emotions and reactions that were previously impossible, like crying, bleeding, and full-on transformations. Robots that feel more human through emotive performance. And the biggest question I've received about these, doesn't Universal already do this? Yes and no. Universal just debuted animated figures that function similarly but have meaningful differences in implementation, like Victoria Frankenstein in the pre-show of Monsters Unchained. For example, Universal uses a physically animated skull. It's simple, but the jaw moves up and down, which helps sell the idea that the character is talking, while Disney says they're using a static shell, which has its own maintenance advantages. Universal also implements a different tracking system. Ultimately, these are both external projection systems aiming towards the same goal: more expressive characters. The same basic idea that was used in the singing bus from the Haunted Mansion, just with the benefit of 21st century technology, and two different approaches to it. But there's one advantage that Disney has, and this could be a real game changer. Disney describes this as
real-time front projection with a mechanical head.
And that phrase is important, real-time. Disney has deep partnerships with Epic Games and Nvidia, and Disney could theoretically render these characters' faces in real time using Unreal Engine, meaning that the animations aren't strictly pre-rendered. They can be made on the fly like a video game, which means that the characters are not only more expressive than ever, but more interactive than ever. By having real-time projections that are tracked by the data straight from the servos inside the figure, Disney is making a system where an animatronic could talk to guests and interact with them, not only with what they say, but with their facial expressions and their body movements all perfectly synced. And it also means that the 2016 Clickhole article, 5 times the animatronic fox on Splash Mountain, addressed me by my name and told me he was going to marry my dad, can finally become a reality. But this tracks with how Disney's been making interactive characters for years. There are obvious examples like Turtle Talk in Monsters Inc. Black Floor, Mickey the Magician, and even the new Olaf can engage in conversations according to Disney. The interactive character goes from the screen and into the physical world. I might be reading into the words real-time way too much, and this is a Jack Reacher. But I don't think so, and here's proof. Disney filed a patent in 2024 that explicitly describes using real-time rendering with a rendering engine. For example, that could be Unreal Engine. And using AI, including large language models, to power real-time character interactions through this projection system. Next-generation audio animatronics open possibilities for characters that feel more emotive, more responsive, and more alive. Ultimately, more human. And Disney's already signaled where we'll see next-generation audio animatronics, specifically naming Mike Wazowski, Lightning McQueen, and Hades, which all map nicely to the Monstropolis, Piston Peak, and Villains Land expansions. And if you want to stay ahead on where Disney's heading, I break down these kind of overlooked details in my newsletter, The Tip Board. It's free and I send that out every week. Links in the description. But there's an even bigger picture for the future of animatronics in the parks, because Imagineering's Vice President of Research and Development said that their robotic innovations, quote, represent a leap in our ability to deliver stories in ways that are personal, up close, and interactive, and as a result, more magical. Except this quote isn't from 2026 or 2025 or even this decade. It's from 2003. Because to know where we're going in the future, we have to take a quick trip to the past. That quote is about Lucky the Dinosaur, Disney's first animatronic to walk freely while interacting with guests. Lucky debuted in 2003 after 5 years of development. And Lucky was an absolute unit. 9 feet tall, 12 feet long, 450 pounds, with a power source and computer completely hidden in the flower cart he was dragging. Plus, Lucky was an early breakthrough for using electric actuators in animatronics rather than hydraulics. That's one innovative dino, but Lucky was rarely seen in the parks, making brief stints in California, Orlando, and Hong Kong before, quote, permanently retiring to a dino farm in the country around 2006. But Disney's quest to free animatronics from the bounds of an attraction has continued, putting Muppets on a Segway with Muppet Mobile Labs, and a walking, dancing baby Groot. But also, like Lucky, each of those were rare to see and short-lived, which has sparked a narrative I see quite a lot within the Disney fandom. And that narrative says, well, these are just for hype, to please shareholders and the media, but guests will never see these in the parks. Exciting new animatronics have disappeared before, why is this time any different? And honestly, I think that feeling is fair, and if the past was the only indicator, I'd agree with them. But here's what they're missing, which brings me to my bold prediction that's guaranteed to be true or your money back. These new animatronics are not vaporware. They are going to happen, and they are going to happen much, much more. Because I think the skeptics don't see the trajectory of this technology and the future of Disney's business. One thing that is undeniable is that the technology is getting better. The animatronics are smaller, nimbler, more expressive, and more advanced. But what most people don't realize is that the technology is also getting quicker and easier to make. As we've seen, reinforcement learning takes problems that used to take months or years to solve and trains the robots within days. But also advances in 3D printing means that these custom parts are much cheaper and faster to prototype and ultimately manufacture. And this isn't just hype. Lucky took 5 years of development, Baby Groot took 3 years, the BDX droids took about 1 year, and last year Imagineering made a screen-accurate, self-balancing Herbie animatronic from concept to park-ready in just 90 days. This is a profound shift. Also, look at the trajectory of the BDX droids. They started with a limited time test in Disneyland 2 years ago, with cast members using remote controls. And last year they went on a world tour, and when I saw them in Orlando, I didn't notice any remote controllers. And trust me, I was looking for them. And in the last episode of We Call It Imagineering, Disney Research emphasized that they are working on giving these robots vision and autonomy so they can actually perform shows continuously throughout the day, finally fulfilling one of the promises of Galaxy's Edge by having free roaming droids. Jake lives on. And the small, lightweight, and easier to produce animatronics means that we will see animatronics in places that were never practical or possible before, like animatronics at sea. Don't believe me? Disney's already doing it, with the BD droids showing up on Disney Cruise Line. I don't think that's a one-off. I was recently able to sail on the Disney Destiny, and that ship is all about innovative character experiences. You're in the Cruella piano bar, and then she busts in demanding you write a new song for her. Animatronics like these give another tool for Disney to create these character moments. And with Disney's cruise fleet massively expanding over the next several years, I think we're going to see more of this, not less. And yes, there is a marketing component to Disney previewing these robots. It gets fans excited, it does signal to shareholders that Disney is a cutting-edge company worth investing in, and most importantly, it gets baldy beardo YouTubers like me making videos about it. But believe it or not, alone, that's not a sustainable business model. The way Disney makes its huge profits from the parks and cruises is by attracting guests to buy tickets and book vacations, and they do that by creating unforgettable experiences. Disney hasn't been trotting out these robots to juice their stock price. They have been building towards something. We do not arrive to making Herbie in 90 days without the years of development with Groot or Muppets or Lucky. And remember that quote from the VP of Imagineering Research and Design? That was said by Bruce Vaughan, who is now the current president and chief creative officer of Walt Disney Imagineering, and one of the main creative forces shaping the future of the parks. The technology is new, but the mission is the same. Free-roaming animatronics and next-generation animatronics are just the next step to deliver stories in ways that are personal, up-close, and interactive, and as a result, more magical. And these robots are a real draw to get people to the parks and on the cruise ships, especially with how AI is shaping the future of content. We are already being flooded with AI-generated digital content. Content that feels less authentic, less special, less human. And that's not slowing down. And as a result, I think there is going to be a real craving and high demand for real-life in-person experiences. And Disney having parks and cruise ships, where you can see Olaf and other characters not only walk by, but actually talk to you and your kids. The potential for an animatronic that can emote and actually interact with you, that is a powerful draw and a huge competitive advantage. 6 decades ago, Walt Disney started a mission to make a machine appear to be human. And it was a perfect moment in history, where artistry and technology collided to make the impossible possible. Animatronics like Lincoln kicked off the first golden age of Imagineering. But I believe we are on the cusp of the next golden age, where artistry and technology are colliding once again, to make sure that characters aren't confined to being bolted down in attractions or stuck to meet and greets, but come to life in ways that you literally cannot have anywhere else. The future of animatronics is more human than you think, not just in how they learn or behave, but the experiences and memories they help create. For more on that future, keep watching because I have a lot more coming up. This has been James Grosh from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see ya in the future.